Here are 15 trending AI projects on GitHub right now. MoneyPrinterV2 makes those faceless short-form money videos people spam across TikTok and YouTube, but as a mostly automated pipeline. The practical bit is that it handles the annoying chain together, generating a script, turning it into voiceover, finding visuals, cutting captions, and packaging a clip without you stitching 5 tools together. In this lineup, that full workflow is the distinct part, though the obvious open question is whether the output feels usable or just mass-produced sludge. Trivy is a security scanner that checks containers, Kubernetes setups, repos, and cloud configs for vulnerabilities, leaked secrets, and plain old bad settings. What's fairly practical is that it keeps those checks in one CLI, so the workflow can stay close to build and deploy instead of bouncing between niche tools. For an AI-heavy stack, that matters because you can scan generated code, base images, and dependency lists, then export an SBOM for what's actually shipping. Agent S is an AI agent that can operate a computer the way a person would, clicking through apps and websites to finish multi-step tasks. What makes it stand out is the workflow. You wire up a model, give it access to the desktop, and it plans actions in that live interface instead of staying trapped in a chat box. It feels fairly practical, but also kind of early, because the real proof here is benchmark progress on OS World and the SDK for building GUI agents around that loop. Protobuf gives your app a compact way to package structured data so different services and languages can exchange it without arguing about the shape. The practical workflow is you define a schema once, run the protobuf compiler, and get typed code plus a binary format that's smaller and usually less annoying than raw JSON on busy systems. For AI stacks moving messages between Python training jobs, C++ runtimes, and edge devices, that predictability is kind of the real point. vllm-omni runs multimodal models efficiently, so one serving stack can handle text, images, audio, and the mixed prompts people actually use. The useful part is the inference layer. It's about keeping those different inputs flowing through one engine without wasting memory or GPU time, which matters a lot once demos turn into real traffic. In this roundup, that makes it fairly practical because the hard problem here isn't the model. It's serving it cheaply enough to keep latency sane. Superset is a terminal-first IDE for running multiple coding agents on your own machine and keeping them all in one workspace. The useful bit is that it doesn't just launch Claude Code or Codex in separate tabs. It gives you shared layout, keyboard-driven control, and a way to juggle parallel agent sessions without the whole thing turning messy. I think the real point is local coordination. One place to watch, steer, and compare what each agent is doing as they edit code. shadPS4 lets you run PlayStation 4 games on Windows, Linux, or macOS, which is the obvious answer if you want old console software to outlive the console. What makes it feel distinct is how practical the workflow seems. There are regular desktop builds, command line launch examples, and separate guidance for firmware, game folders, and debugging when something breaks. It's still emulator territory, so compatibility is the real question, and the repo keeps surfacing status and issue reporting for that reason. SkyPilot gives you one way to launch and manage AI jobs across clouds, Kubernetes, Slurm, or your own machines without rewriting the workflow every time. The practical bit is that you describe the resources you want, then it finds capacity, runs the job, and can recover or move work when spot instances disappear. I think the real point is less multi-cloud bragging and more making GPU hunting feel like a normal command line task. Osgameclones helps you find open source remakes of familiar games, which is a pretty practical answer to the usual where do I even start problem. The useful bit is that it treats the catalog like structured data, with YAML entries for both the clone and the original, so people can keep adding links, references, and missing context without touching much code. For an AI crowd, the real point is how legible that workflow is. It's basically a maintainable game knowledge base with a site built from it. vllm-2 trains video models to understand what's happening next in a clip without needing frame-by-frame labels. The workflow here is pretty research-heavy but clear. You pre-train an encoder and predictor on raw video, then add the action condition stage if you want planning and control, which is the part that makes it feel different from a lot of plain video representation repos. The newer 2.1 release also pushes denser, more temporally consistent features. JuMP.jl lets you describe optimization problems in code and hand them off to solvers, whether you're tuning schedules, routing, or anything with hard constraints. What makes it distinct is the modeling layer. You write variables, objectives, and constraints in pretty direct math-shaped Julia, then swap in linear, integer, conic, or nonlinear solvers without rewriting the whole problem. That's fairly practical for AI work too, especially when the hard part is decision logic after a model spits out scores. Context Hub gives coding agents a trusted docs layer, so they stop making up APIs and can carry useful context from task to task. The practical bit is that the knowledge is just versioned marked down in the repo, so you can see exactly what the agent is being fed, swap in curated references, and call it through simple commands. I think the real point is the self-improving loop, where agents can save what worked and fetch only the fresh changes next time. Stitch Skills gives coding agents ready-made actions for UI and front-end work, so you can install a skill and have Claude Code, Cursor, or Gemini CLI pick it up automatically. The useful part is how specific these are. One skill turns prompts into designs, another runs an edit loop, and others generate markdown specs, improve prompts, or spit out React, shadeskin, and component code. It's fairly practical because the package is opinionated, but still follows an open skill format. Posit Skills gives Claude a set of ready-made workflows for coding, GitHub tasks, open source work, and especially the R stack. The practical bit is that these skills auto-trigger from your prompt, so instead of hunting for a custom agent, Claude can drop into package development, Shiny, or Quarto mode when the job calls for it. That feels pretty nice, and the install path is lightweight too, with NPX support for adding skills without much setup. OpenEnv gives you a standard way to turn real execution tasks into training environments for reinforcement learning, so you can post-train an agent by having it actually do work. The useful bit is the GYM-style interface. You define observations, actions, rewards, and isolated sandboxes, then swap in examples like Blackjack or plug into partner platforms. I think the real point is reliability here. Agents get a contained place to fail, retry, and be scored without touching the host machine. Subscribe to Build Things with AI for more GitHub AI tool roundups.